jump in with questions in the chat box any chance you get. I'm used to engaging with people in person. It's a whole nother experience engaging with a camera. I try to imagine the one person I'm talking to, since I'm not talking to a large group, I'm talking to a set of individuals who are sitting at home on their computers. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Eileen Smith. I am a public speaking coach. A few years ago now, I finished my career at the State Department, where I spoke in venues all around the world. I have spoken to advocacy groups and international organizations. I have addressed members of Congress and the press. More importantly, in this context, when I was senior advisor to the Deputy Secretary of State, I ended up coaching her for speeches. I don't even remember how we started. First, it was speeches that I had worked on, and then she started calling me in for all of her speeches at the State Department, the United Nations, and the White House. And she's the one, this was her idea. She said, you know, you could do this professionally. I didn't give it any more thought at the time. I was fully engaged in my State Department career. But when I started to think about what I could do next, I realized I've been doing this my whole life. I remember coaching college roommates for interviews. So I began to study. I studied public speaking, executive presence, and body language, because these are skills that will affect the success of every organization's mission and the trajectory of every person's career. We will start with talking about preparation. I'm sure you know that person who says, oh, I don't need to practice. I get up there and I wing it and it's great. Please write a note in the chat box if you know this person. Maybe this person has a God-given gift for public speaking. Or maybe they have talked about this topic in front of people so many times that has been their practice and they don't even know it. Wow, nobody, yes, okay, somebody knows people like that. Okay, excellent. For the rest of us who are not that person, we have to prepare. First is to tailor your message to the audience. What does this audience need to hear on this topic at this time? And then practice. And I mean stand up and say it out loud. You can practice with your friends. You can practice in front of your phone for a video camera. That reminds me to ask Jeanette if she's taping this. It's a great way for you to practice. Everybody is working on a computer in this type of a format right now, and you can do some videotaping of yourself. If you are using a PowerPoint, then you want to keep it crisp. Not too many slides, not too many words on a slide. I try to use a rule of nothing bigger than a 36-point font because that will keep me from putting too many words on a slide. Also, please, as a personal favor to me, do not read your slides to the audience. People can read faster than we talk, which means if you are reading your slide to the audience, let me know in the chat box if anyone has ever seen this presentation where the person just reads you what you're looking at. If you read the slides to your audience, you are just repeating what they have already read. Okay, excellent. Thank you for those comments. This is Sylvia Ann Hewlett. She is the head of the Center for Talent Innovation. Her organization did a big study funded by all kinds of corporations, trying to identify that leadership factor, that it factor, that thing that makes people identify a person as someone who is going places, someone on their way up who people want to listen to. She identified gravitas, which is what you know and how you talk about what you know. communication skills, which we are talking about right now, and appearance. Appearance is fascinating. There's a study between Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School that found that people form their first impression in just 250 milliseconds. That is 1/4 of a second. And people have already formed their first impression of your credibility, likability, and trustworthiness based on your clothes, your grooming, and your body language. She named her book Executive Presence, The Missing Link Between Merit and Success. I focus on that because it tells me that it's not enough to be good at what I do. I also have to project the image of a leader in order to maximize the trajectory of my career. I'm just checking in. Okay, yes, fabulous. All right, thank you for those comments in the chat box. Does anyone know a person who walks in a room and you know that this person has it going on? Has anyone met this person who just walks in and projects executive presence? While you're answering that, I'm going to move on to projecting energy. Yes, I see some yeses. If you want to give examples, that would be fabulous. Projecting an energy is something we want to do all the time. Through a screen, it's even more of a challenge. There are a number of things you can do. You can use your hand gestures. If you are someone who talks naturally with your hands, that is wonderful. I do recommend taking a look in the mirror or making a recording of yourself to make sure that your hands are saying what you think they're saying. You can also use facial expressions to project energy. A smile is a wonderful way to project energy and confidence. You can use your voice. You can use vocal variety to inject meaning into what you're saying. And if you are feeling a little bit tired, a little down before your presentation, you can stand up like I'm doing right now. It helps me project more energy than when I am sitting. You've seen some CEOs. That's a good point, Zoe. Folks who have already risen up seem to have that presence when they go into a room. Excellent point. This is Carolyn Kennedy. When Hillary Clinton left the Senate to go to the State Department, she vacated her seat in the Senate, and the governor of New York had the opportunity to appoint a new senator. Carolyn Kennedy threw her hat in the ring, and she went to do this television interview. The question is, why do you want to be senator? Now, bear with me for just a moment, please, while I get this going. I'm making some progress here.
You know, let me begin this way. It was a few years ago, after, I felt, my job was to reach out to, everyday New Yorkers and I really ought to give it some thought. That my
life, are we seeing it?
While I was thinking
let me know,
it,
please, in the chat box if you can see this.
Saying, why don't you be senator? You'd be great. Go for it. We're rooting
for
you.
Awesome. Okay. All right, we're just going to listen to about 30 seconds here.
So I thought, well, I have to do that because, this is my home. I was in my family,
All right, let me get back to the presentation. That was enough of an example. Is anybody cringing out there? Just tell me if you're cringing. Yes, absolutely. That was pretty painful. That video went viral and she withdrew her name from consideration. Yes, she said a lot of you know and a lot of We all have filler words like are pretty common. Everybody's got something. Working your filler words out of your conversation is an ongoing effort. You can pick some time, a month, we're in quarantine, you can make this your quarantine theme to identify what your filler words are and try to actively work them out of your conversation. If you find that you are using them to buy yourself time to think, try using a pause instead. You can use a pause to sound thoughtful and add more meaning to what you are about to say. The real problem, though, with her ums and you knows is that she did not deliver her message. Before going into this interview, she should have already known the answer to that question. She should have had her 3 points. I always recommend that people identify 3 key points. Even if you have some sub-points under that, think about how you're packaging it. Hers should have been, the people of New York need this. The problem in Washington is that. And I am particularly well suited for this job because. If she had had those 3 points, she could have used them to answer that question and really any other question through stories, relatable statistics, and sound bites that refer back to those key points. When I am coaching people who are going into a media interview or panel, any kind of a question and answer situation, I find that they are studying like it is their graduate exams. They want to be prepared to answer any question, but they are on defense. I want people to be on offense. What are your 3 points and how are you going to deliver them? Speaking of delivery, there is so much that can go wrong. Please write into the chat box and tell me if you've seen any of these scenarios going on. I imagine people have seen Zoom meetings or other kind of video chats with barking dogs, with kids popping up. There was the one of the kid doing the flossing dance from Fortnite. Other things can go wrong, such as the hot mic. I recommend that people keep their microphone on mute unless they are actually speaking. First is this makes a better sound quality for everyone. And the other is that it can prevent you from being overheard making an unfortunate comment. Yes, lots of malfunctions are happening, absolutely, and background noise. And I will tell you, I'm using my computer's microphone right now because even though I had it set up before, when I came in to talk with you guys, my regular microphone didn't work, so I'm using the computers now, and it does give some background sound. Another thing to think about is the hot video camera. If you are letting people see you, if your video is on, you need to act like you are in the room with these people. This means no eye rolling, no visible multitasking, looking at your phone, talking with the kid who has come in or the dog or whatever else is going on. Anybody see the video of the very unfortunate woman who was doing a meeting at work and took the phone into the restroom and everyone got to see her using the restroom? That was painful. Let me know if you saw that one. If your video is on, act like you are in the room with the people. Also think about what happens, you saw it. What happens if your technology goes wrong? Prepare ahead of time. Your professor and I spent a good amount of time getting ourselves set up ahead of time so that I could share the PowerPoint and play the video. These things take a little bit more commitment and prep time, but this is the venue that we all have to work with right now. It is worth the extra commitment. You also want to project your professional image properly. This means have a clean, neat background behind you. Check your lighting to make sure that is working, and your clothes. I understand you're preparing to make a presentation. Everybody knows we're all at home right now and we could easily be in our jammies all day. But when it's your turn to make a presentation, dress it up a little bit. You can dress up just on your top half if you like. A number of people are recommending to dress up your whole body because it gets you in a good mind frame. And what if you do need to stand up to let the dog out or whatever else is going to happen? Thank you very much for your participation. I love the responses in chat. I would be delighted to take any questions.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. A question I frequently get is, what do I do if I get nervous? What do I do? I'm getting ready to do this, but then my heart rate is going up and I'm starting to sweat and my stomach is flipping, and what am I going to do? And I've lost my train of thought, etc. The first thing to do is breathe. What's happening is your physiological system is responding in a fight or flight response to a perceived threat, because we don't differentiate our responses between a psychological threat and a physical threat. So your body is acting just as it would as if there were lions and tigers arrayed ready to attack. That's what's going on. And this can cause all of these symptoms that I just mentioned. The first thing to do is take a breath. Breathe. It can look like a meaningful pause, a nice deep one from your stomach, to help get some more oxygen flowing. Other things I recommend are a lot of preparation and practice ahead of time. And I recommend having notes. If I'm talking with you and I suddenly lose my train of thought, that's okay, because I've got my notes right here. I'm not likely to need them, but if I have them, they're here, and it's a nice safety net for me to have. I miss my thought. I don't say, oh my goodness, I can't remember what I'm going to say. Hang on a second, let me take my notes. No, I will just glance over because my notes are already prepared. They're in a large font, and I can look over and get back to what I'm talking about. Any other questions right now? One more tip I have for you is to look directly at the light by your camera. If I am looking at the box of myself on the screen, first is I'm getting distracted because I wonder, does my hair look good right now? And the other is that I'm looking off to the side because I'm looking at my box as opposed to looking at you on the camera.
Oh, that's a great tip, Eileen. Really good tip.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, so you knew I would ask you to do something. Could you please type into the box 2 things that you took away from this presentation today and send it over?
I can't wait to see this.
I think the other thing that's important, Eileen, is that when you get to the end of your presentation, you have to close with fortitude. Don't just wander off into the night without a good, strong close. And I'll be looking for that when you do your presentations later on.
It is great to close with a quote or a call to action. You can refer to a movie or a book. There's a quote by Lee Iacocca that is calling me right now, because he says, in times of challenge and adversity, it's best to focus one's energy and anger into positive actions. That's what I am trying to do every day, because this situation is frustrating. It's excellent to close strong with a quote or a call to action or some meaningful piece of information.
And an important one for me is it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness.
Ooh, that's good. That's very good. Oh,
All right, I see lots of
like
comments. So could I ask you please to say thank you to our speaker?